Welcome to Tiger TV. I'm Shelby Clayton.
And I'm Fiona Miller, and today is Thursday, February 6th. Now to Ivy's story with a few words of wisdom.
Good morning, Harris County Carver Middle School Tigers. This is Ivy's story with a few words of wisdom. Sometimes it's important to compromise to make a common promise in order to reach an agreement, but there are times when compromise isn't the right thing to do. American statesman Henry Cabot Lodge Jr. says, "It is never right to compromise something with dishonesty." In other words, he's saying that it's never right to reach an agreement to be dishonest, whether you make the agreement with yourself or with others. Let's think about some compromises people make with dishonesty. Have you ever made these kind of compromises? Have you ever told yourself this is okay to lie about skipping school? It's okay to cheat on a test. It's okay to keep the extra change the cashier accidentally gives back. These kinds of compromises with dishonesty are never right. So don't make agreements with dishonesty. You're too smart for that. When you compromise your integrity, you compromise your future. Honestly. With something to think about, this is Ivy's story. Make it a great day. Or not, the choice is yours.
You gotta have the courage. Do you have the courage to act outwardly on what you see inwardly? Or will you die a dreamer? Will you die on the verge and on the edge and in the land of coulda, woulda, and shoulda? Do you have the courage? I'm going to drop some on you. It takes courage to be successful.
To continue our Black History Month reporting, today we will celebrate the life and work of Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela, born in 1918, was an important cultural and political figure who fought for the rights of blacks in South Africa. He became the first black president of South Africa and played a leading role in ending apartheid. Mandela was brought into the world in the small village of Mavezo, the youngest and only boy of 4 children. His mother was Nonkafi Nosekeni, and his father was Nkosi Mandela, who was the chief counselor of the Thembu tribe. As a child, Mandela's favorite pastime was listening to the elders talk of African history, stories of wars between the white man and the black man and how their land was taken from them. After hearing these stories, Mandela was inspired to fight for the freedom of his people. After the death of his father, when Mandela was only 12, he was to be taken care of by his uncle, who made sure he received an excellent education. He hoped to one day become a lawyer and fight for the rights of his people, enrolling in Fort Hare College. Mandela first became involved in politics when he joined the Students' Representative Council and was later expelled for protesting. He moved to the city of Johannesburg afterward. After living in Johannesburg for some time, Mandela witnessed the poor treatment of Africans and their living conditions, and vowed to gain their freedom. He also met one of his first political allies, Walter Sisulu. Sisulu helped Mandela by giving him money, a job, and advice while he was studying for his bachelor's degree in law. He also met his first wife, Evelyn Ntoko Mas, who married him in 1944 and later divorced him in 1955 due to his constant political activity. Nelson's involvement with the African National Congress, which was an organization for the United Stand Against Apartheid, began in 1943. In 1944, he, Oliver Tambo, and 60 others founded the ANC Youth League due to the ANC's poor protest strategies. Mandela became the president of the ANCYL in 1951 and held the ANC's first nationwide protest in 1952, known as the Defiance Campaign, and another, known as the Congress of the People in 1955, where a new constitution, called the Freedom Charter, designed by the ANC, was showcased. After the Congress of the People in 1956, Mandela and many others were put on trial for treason. Over the duration of the treason trial, Mandela and 156 other defendants were accused of plotting against the state. It took over 5 years to reach a verdict. Mandela and all of the defendants were discharged and set free. During the trial, Mandela married his second wife, Winnie Mandela. During the 1960s, the government began enacting more racist policies. Meanwhile, another civil rights group known as the Pan-African Congress planned another peaceful protest involving Africans going to police stations and handing in their passports that were used to further segregate South Africa. Unfortunately, the protest ended in tragedy when the police opened fire on a crowd in Sharpeville, killing over 69 people and wounding 180. In response, the ANC went underground as their current nonviolent tactics were ineffective. Mandela founded another section of the ANC known as the Spear of the Nation. In December 1961, they attacked several government buildings with bombs and later sabotaged power stations and phone lines. After planning and carrying out a series of these attacks and being a fugitive for 18 months, Mandela was captured on August 5, 1962. His trial, known as the Rivonia Trial, began in October of 1963 after the capture of Walter Sisulu and hundreds of documents related to the Spear of the Nation. During this trial, Mandela was accused of conspiring against the government and sabotage. His statement from the prisoner's dock, lasting over 4 hours, is considered one of the most articulate speeches in the modern era. He spoke of the suffering Africans endured on a daily basis, the decision to turn to violence, black education, and what Africans want for the country of South Africa. The judge took a minuscule 3 minutes to deliver his findings and sentenced Mandela to life in prison. While he was in prison, he lost connection to the outside world as well as his family. But there was much going on. Steve Biko, a young African civil rights activist, was arrested and tortured to death. Following his death, violent protests became all the more common. One such protest, the Children's Crusade, which occurred in June of 1976 when African high school students chose to demonstrate against a new education policy, led to the death of 700 to 1,000 students, children, and adults shot by the police. Violence such as this began to spread throughout other townships and eventually into white suburbs. There was even violence between Africans due to their political ideologies and opinions, leading to more deaths. They needed someone to lead them, someone to assist them in gaining their freedom. More demonstrators began pressuring the government to release Nelson Mandela and attempt to maintain peace between the blacks and the whites. F.W. de Klerk was elected as the new prime minister and began considering the release of Mandela. The government eventually gave in, releasing Mandela on Sunday, February 11, 1990, after 27 years behind bars. Millions of people heard his speech at Cape Town City Hall, concluding it with the final words of his statement at the Rivonia trial that occurred a quarter of a century before.
I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
Following his release, Mandela began speaking with the government requesting the creation of a political climate where negotiations could take place, as well as asking for the removal of soldiers from townships and the release of all political prisoners. If these parameters were not reached, the ANC would refuse to negotiate with the government and turn to other tactics to reach their goals. De Klerk, with the help and guidance of Mandela, gradually began removing apartheid laws throughout South Africa. Blacks could now use white hospitals and were no longer required to stay in the townships. In 1993, Mandela and de Klerk earned the Nobel Peace Prize for their work in removing apartheid in South Africa. However, negotiations for black voting rights were strained, as the political values of many blacks were contrary to Mandela's approach. Many felt a complete transfer of power in the government was necessary. Fortunately, the negotiations were successful, with South Africa's first fully democratic election being held on April 27, 1994. Mandela was inaugurated as their first black president on May 10, 1994 at the age of 77, with 63% of the vote in his favor. His first substantial act as president was the introduction of the Reconstruction and Development Program, which was meant to address aid in the socio-economic woes caused by apartheid by alleviating poverty and fixing social services. Mandela also used South Africa's love of sports, mainly rugby, to create reconciliation between whites and blacks. The 1995 Rugby World Cup, which was hosted and won by South Africa, was the first time South Africa ever got to participate. He married his final wife, Graca Machel, in 1998 and retired from active politics in 1999. In his life, Mandela founded two charities, the Nelson Mandela's Children's Fund and the Nelson Mandela Foundation. He passed away in 2013. Throughout most of his life, Nelson Mandela was the voice of change in South Africa. Thanks to him, blacks and whites now live a far more peaceful coexistence within South Africa.
Honor Band will be traveling to LaGrange College this Saturday for a combined concert with schools from all over the district. Members of the HGCMS District Honor Band include Gabe Acosta, Evan Walden, and Addie Lowell. Please offer your well wishes to these students as they head off to participate this Saturday.
We'll be having a pajama day tomorrow, Friday, February 7th. The cost is $2 and all proceeds go to the American Cancer Society. You can purchase your wristbands from your homeroom teacher.
If you are currently in 7th or 8th grade and are interested in trying out the Harris County High School Junior Varsity or Varsity Cheerleading competition teams or the Varsity Football Cheerleading sideline teams, please plan to attend the interest meeting on February 19th at 6 o'clock in the Harris County High School Library to learn more. Official tryouts will be held March 2nd through March 4th. Boys track and field tryouts will be held tomorrow after school. Pickup time is 5 p.m. in the HGCMS field. Girls track and field tryouts will be held February 10th and 11th. Pickup time is 5:30 p.m. at the HGCMS field.
Thursday through Monday, the 6th through the 10th, FBLA will be conducting their state leadership online testing event. Students will test from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the Lego Lab. Students should transition to the Lego Lab after the morning announcements. Ms. Van Pelt will proctor our exams. FBLA will also attend our FBLA State Leadership Conference on Monday, February 24th in Covington, Georgia. We will leave the school around 8:15 a.m. and return home around 6 p.m. that evening.
Chick-fil-A will be on sale tomorrow. If you don't see us in the front lobby tomorrow morning, you can go to the bus ramp. For $6, you can get a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich, water, and cookies. Pickup will be tomorrow afternoon at 2:50. Thank you for your support for Harris County Carver Middle School Technology Student Association.
That's all we have for today.
And we'll see you in the hallways.